Welcome to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast all about stories of safety leadership, presented by Dale Carnegie and the Board of Certified Safety Professionals.
A farm boy from Ohio who grew up and is a safety leader and a safety influencer. So we've got something special ahead of us these next few minutes.
Absolutely. I'm excited for our audience to listen to this one. So today we've got Matt Compher with us, who I've known for several years now. And really how we met was through kind of an owner-contractor type relationship, but quickly realized his passion and his team's passion and value for safety and just have kept touch over the years. And, Matt and his team are ones who really have been industry leaders and influencers in all areas of safety, but especially in finding creative ways to build capacity into their organization and into their workforce, who's quite dispersed at most times. And it's just been really exciting to watch and continue to benchmark with him and partner with him. So thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Thank you.
And we are honored to have you with us. And you come from Houston, Texas.
That's correct. Yeah.
Good deal. So how did a guy from Ohio on a farm progress all the way to Houston? What was it like growing up on a farm?
It was a long road for sure. So it was great, growing up in Southern Ohio on a small family farm. At that time, growing up in Southern Ohio, you were either going to stay on the farm or you logged or you went to the paper mill. Right. And I can still remember sitting in shop class and I don't know, probably junior year of high school. And I was sitting next to my buddy Rod and he said, man, if we could just get out of here and get a job at the paper mill, excuse me, we'd have it made. And I could have, make a little bit of money, own a few acres, go hunting and fishing every day. And life was good.
Oh, man.
And that was kind of the mindset. And fast forward, get out of high school, enter the workforce, and I go into the steel mills, small steel mill in Southern Ohio. And
what was that? What was that like?
It was interesting at the time. So we're in the early 90s, 94 actually. And I would say the steel mill was ran like it was in about 1954. So a lot of my buddies were getting hurt. And I really didn't understand this and didn't really understand safety. I grew up in a small farm and a church community, and we were always doing projects and taking care of people and trying to look after everyone and just always helping out. It's kind of how I was brought up in this, in my life. And all my buddies started getting hurt, and I was like, this is not right. Like, why are we still doing these kind of things, right? And I at the time, I couldn't spell safety. So I started reading OSHA. I found out what OSHA was, started reading OSHA standards.
Wait, you took that initiative on your own to start looking into it more and delving into it?
Yeah, I heard about OSHA. I didn't really know what it was. So in the quality control lab in the steel mill, we had the old OSHA 3-ring binder. Those of us that are old enough will remember that. And I just sat down and started reading, honestly, and got involved in the union. So United Steelworker at the time. I tell everybody I ran unopposed but got elected as a safety committeeman for the local union and really just dove into learning more about safety, how it applied to the work we were doing, how I could help my buddies return home without getting hurt. And that's really what drove me.
So then where did you go next after that?
So after that, I got hired in the mill and then started night school at Ohio University, the Chillicothe branch campus. They had a hazardous materials class, which was the closest thing to safety. So at this time, I kind of had the safety bug, and I was just wanting to learn. So I was taking any class that would give me a certification. So one of the classes they offered was OSHA 30-hour class. So I took that. I became a hazmat technician, confined space rescue, all this stuff that I could put on my resume, which was fun. And then at the paper mill, I really got involved, again, back with the union. I was the union safety representative for one of the departments in the plant and in the paper mill. And I was running lockout tagout programs for turnarounds and representing the union on safety issues and those kind of things. And just truly got ingrained in safety and how we can make it better and how we can get everybody home every night and really learned a lot in that job for sure.
So I heard you talk about, you had someone who went to bat for you. And, we often talk about how important relationships are and sponsors
Yeah.
are. So maybe talk about that person a little bit more who had the confidence in you and how that really impacted the trajectory of your career.
Yeah, for sure. His name was Lars Peterson. I still remember him. He worked at the paper mill. Really invested in me. He saw that I wanted a path out. He saw me working hard. He saw me starting night school. He saw me reading all the books and learning OSHA and leading in the safety in the union. And he really poured into me and helped me find a way out. And I've had several of those people over the years that really helped me, find that next step.
How much of that, certainly that person being alert to someone who is wanting to move forward, but how much of that starts within individual? I mean, I'm thinking of these folks that are listening to us now,
Yeah.
and they're at all different levels. Some are toward the end of their career. Some of them are just getting started. They have aspirations. How important is it, Matt, to have that something within that you've got some direction? You don't know where for sure, but you've got some direction, and that people catch on to that.
Well, look, if you have passion for something, you got to show it. Right. And I think if you truly have passion, you don't have to be like you don't have to go out of your way to show it. People just see it. Right.
Well, it oozes out. Yeah.
It oozes out, but it oozes out in the way you carry yourself. It oozes out in the work you're doing. It oozes out in, books you might be reading, to the conversations you're having, to the people you seek out to talk to.
No doubt.
Like those things are just so important. Like you never know, what this one conversation may lead to. Right. But go have the conversation.
And not have the fear of, oh, well, am I able? Am I enough? Sometimes you just got to, you said that step of faith earlier. You just got to step out and say, all right, what have I got to lose to ask? Or what do I lose to investigate or to learn?
That's right.
But it just doesn't come zapping people in the middle of the night. Well, yours was in the middle of the night when you got learn about that. But you got to make some initiative. And that's a big deal.
Well, and I don't know who this is credited to, but as the saying goes, the harder I work, the luckier I got. It was hard work, right? I mean, it was studying, it was reading on my own time. I used to stay after work at the steel mill for 2 hours and read the OSHA manual, not get paid for it, but I would just go to the lab and sit down with the OSHA manual for 3 hours and just read it. And then I'd walk out in the mill and try to apply what this regulation was saying. And I talk a lot about being a student of the profession. And I think it's really important, especially younger in your career. Like you have to be technically sound from a compliance, regulatory standpoint. And I ask everybody all the time, what are you doing today to get better? Because you got to be focused on it. It's not just going to happen. Like you got to focus on it. You got to go get it. You got to want it. And as I said, the harder I work, the luckier I got. I remember we would take our lunch break after I took this industrial services job. We were really technical. We had one of these first digital cameras that had a floppy disk in it. If you ever remember those, they were huge cameras. Had a floppy disk in the side of it. And we would leave at lunch, and there's a lot of construction around town at that time, and we'd take pictures of all these construction sites. And then we would come back and look up the regulations and figure out whether they were in compliance or not, or what would we do about it if it was our jobs.
That's great.
But it's just like having the desire and the hard work to go get it.
I think it also stems back to that passion, right? When you have a passion and a desire to do something, it's fun. It
is.
Even though it is hard work, it doesn't feel like it all the time.
Well, let's just, this is such a good thing of being a student of the profession. For somebody that would be listening now, who has found themselves in a rut, they just feel like I can't budge, I can't move forward. I'd like to, but nothing's happening.
I could do this job with my eyes closed.
Yeah, and after a while, there's something they want more, but they don't know the step to take.
Yeah.
How could you advise that person?
Well, I'd say you should always have a book. You need to be reading constantly, or today's world, you got to have a podcast. you should honestly have both going at the same time.
Like my big safety challenge. I
Like,
mean, that would be a good.
this would
That
be
would be a
one of them,
great
right? Like this, but you have to invest in yourself, and when you feel yourself getting in that rut, you got to understand why you're in the rut, and how are you going to get out of the rut, and how are you going to challenge. And then I would advance from there and really look at my network. Who am I talking to? Who am I learning from? What conversations am I having? What challenges am I bringing forth to the management team to help them solve? Not just coming and complaining about a current issue. Like, how are we bringing solutions and value to that operations team to ensure that we're advancing? And be ready for tough conversations. Like, these aren't always fun, and it's not always rainbows and unicorns, as they say, right? It's like some of this is hard conversations that you got to have. Be okay being uncomfortable.
But it sounds like, too, someone needs to take a step forward, a step that leads to another step. But if you don't take that first step.
That's right. And it's on you to take that step. Nobody's going to do it for you. Like, you have to take the step. You got to have the initiative. You got to have the drive. If you're going to excel, just my opinion, if you're going to excel as a safety professional, you got to have drive and passion. Like, it's got to be there. You got to be a constant learner. You got to figure out what the next thing is. Safety's evolving. You got to evolve with it as well.
So you had this industrial job. Where did you move on to next?
So yeah, I was as an industrial in the industrial services world. We were working at a large steel mill. Really helped that steel mill set up the contractor safety program and helped them manage that program for a few years. And at the time, from a time standpoint, we're like early 2000s now. And that's kind of when the utility world was going through this transition to, I don't just care about our employees, I care about all employees. And they were having a lot of contractor fatalities at the time. So the local utility in Ohio actually went to the steel mill to benchmark contractor safety. And I sat down with them, and the steel mill I was working for actually asked me to come present. It was kind of an oddball thing. They called me that morning and said, "Hey, can you come to this meeting?" I happened to be there that day. Everything aligned right. And I went and presented what we were doing with contractor safety. And one thing led to another, and ended up getting offered a job at the utility to start up and manage a contractor program, which was an incredible opportunity. Had no idea what I was doing, and just sat down and grinded it out and set up a contractor oversight program. And as I was at that utility, it was like, when I think back through my career, like every one of these experiences was like a laboratory of learning. You work in industrial services. I got to see paper mills, steel mills, auto manufacturing, chemical plants, refineries, power generation. Mm-hmm. You think it was just a laboratory of learning. And then I got to go to the utility, and another laboratory of learning was how you evaluate contractors and how you should look at a safety management system and what it really should look like in the construction industry and the utility world. And what a great experience that I had there, setting that up and helping manage that program.
But some people would say, "Oh, wait, I don't know if I'm qualified enough. I don't know if I want to try." You may have thought some of those things, but it didn't hold you back.
And a funny story, in my interview, the safety director that was interviewing me told me that I wasn't qualified, but the operations person said, "No, I think he'll do." It was great. And I know the safety professional today. He's kind of in my network and does some work for us, and love the guy. He's awesome, incredibly smart.
Do you ever remind him of that?
I did just not too long ago, actually. But it was funny because he was right. I wasn't qualified, but I was passionate and I was willing to work hard. And I was like, let's roll up our sleeves and go get it.
I think another just great lesson that you just shared with us, it goes back to the passion, but I will do the work it takes to figure it out.
Yeah.
And they may be able to outthink you. They may be able to out-talk you, but they cannot outwork you if you will choose to commit to that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, very big. Sure.
How did you really learn about this idea of leadership and influencing? What were some sparks that got you going and enhanced and fanned the fire?
I don't know if there was ever one thing, but what I learned was after I became technically sound from an OSHA standpoint, I'm not saying I knew it all. I wasn't an expert. Don't let me say that. But I had a foundation of what OSHA, regulations mean, how to apply them, how to implement a safety management. I had a foundation. But I found out pretty quickly that I was going to be limited by my ability to lead and influence. So if I couldn't influence senior management, operations management, or even a foreman, anybody that had control over the work, I wasn't going to be successful. So I really started diving into, books. At the time, it was like every airport I'd go to is like I'd go into, it's hard to find a bookstore anymore, but you go into a bookstore and go to the leadership section and say, all right, let's grab this book and that book. Have you read this one? And
Were there some you could tell us about that stood out to you, that an idea that left an impressions with you?
yeah, I mean, I have my list of favorites for sure. I mean, James Hunter is
The Servant.
The Servant.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a foundational book. It really aligned with my upbringing and how I truly felt about helping people. That was probably the most impactful book. But there's others like Start With Why. Like I had a really good why, but I couldn't define it until Simon Sinek's book came out, right? And I sat down and read that book. And to this day, if you get hired onto my staff, on day one, you get The Servant and Start With Why. And I say you have to read them. It's hard to make a human do anything. But my ask is you go read them.
One of the things I just will say about the Dale Carnegie organization is that when you look at those human relation principles that Dale Carnegie gave, the 30 of how to interact with people, 16 of them use the phrase, the other person. Show respect to the other person. Be a good listener. Encourage other people to talk about themselves. And it really fits with that idea that you got on there about being a servant leader.
Yeah.
Being a leader is not, let me just boss everybody. Being a leader is, let me serve the other people. Would you explain how you see that dynamic come in the work you do and as you work with lead other people?
Yeah. Look, our job as safety professionals is to make the business wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that business, no matter what business, what industry you're in, will not be wildly successful if you don't have safe production, safe execution, safe, just getting everybody home every night. But it also has to align with operations. The businesses are in business to make money. Our job is to help them have safe money, right? To get production, to make a margin, but do it safely.
That's right.
And for that company, for that manager, for that president, for that local foreman, we serve them to help them get their people home every night. And I think as you step back from the business aspect, and this is a new thing that we've been talking on, and I'll give David Fleener credit for this from my staff, is our job. We have around 60,000 employees right now, 62,000 employees. We work for the families of those employees. Mm-hmm. I was big on saying, we got 62,000 heartbeats out there, and our job is to serve them and get them home, and it actually is, and that's true. David told me the other day, he's like, we're really working for those 62,000 families. And think about the impact that you have. That number, when you think about moms and dads and brothers and sisters and
grandpas and grandmas.
Yeah, and spouses. I mean, that number gets huge, and that's who we're working for. That's what drives me every day. Like, how can I get everybody home? I'm a baseball guy. So I'm like, how do we get everybody home to go to the ball game this weekend? Mm-hmm. Like, I want every father, every mother to be at the baseball game with their kids this weekend, or softball, or whatever sport it is, right? That's why I come to work. That's the only reason.
So if you could share with us some examples about, because I agree with you, it's so important to build that bridge between, not even a bridge maybe, but ingrain safety with operations and, the EHS world bringing value to operations. Can you share any examples or stories of how you've tried to do that or how you've been successful doing it?
Yeah, especially like you got to help them look around the corner. Like, what's coming tomorrow? And if you're a local safety professional, I was out on cruise yesterday here locally, and I was asking the GF, I was like, what do you need from me? What can I do to help you be successful? And that's the question I want my local safety professional asking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the pole change out that we're going to do tomorrow, and what challenges are there? And as a safety professional, am I bringing a filter to the hazards of that job and talking about it a little differently?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that general foreman's overseeing 4 or 5 crews, but he's got 2 that he's this job's kind of sticky a little bit. Like, let's have an extra set of eyes. Like, where can I go help you tomorrow? Not to supervise, just to bring another set of eyes to the project. But, I think it's extremely important to both operations to know how to use your safety professionals and safety professionals to bring value to operations. We call it a powerful partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a powerful partnership, we're missing a huge opportunity. A huge opportunity.
So I want to hone in on something you said there. So you flew up here to join us for this podcast, but you just said you were out with a crew of your teammates either yesterday or today. So why was that so important to you?
Well, it's the biggest thing of my job, or the most important part of my job, is actually seeing the men and women doing the work. And it's the time that I enjoy the most when I'm out there with the folks. But you got to see what's actually going on. Like, if somebody would ask me Sunday what the challenges we were facing in Indianapolis were, I mean, I might have heard about them a little bit, but to know what they were, I didn't know until I go see, right? And just to get out there and understand, hey, how's our safety management system working? What are they struggling with? Like what does the crew not understand what we're trying to get accomplished and where we're going? How can I help them be successful? My whole purpose was, one, to educate me, but more so, what can I do to serve the local management team here in Indianapolis? So that was my purpose. Anytime I travel somewhere, like when we were planning this, I was like, and if I go early, I might be able to catch crew visits, and I'll meet the local team who I may or may not know. And let's just go figure out what's happening.
And that's some of the things we talk about, is how important it is for leaders of any type, really, to be out there where the work is taking place with their teammates to do just exactly what you mentioned.
And that speaks volumes to the people you're going to be with. Could you talk about that, how they perceive you coming to see or go along with them?
Well, I can tell you this, like, we had a kind of a debrief at dinner last night with kind of a area vice president, and he received a text from his GF that said, "Thanks for coming. It was a big boost for the crews." Which sometimes I look back and I'm like, I'm just a goofball out here trying to learn. I'm like, I don't know what we do, but it was really cool to get that feedback, because I hope we have a positive impact. We had some great conversations, and I was there to learn more than anything. Like, I need to learn where the struggle is. What can I do to help them get better?
At times, though, some safety professionals, we use the term safety cop, and I know that, but they just are going out to pick apart, or it's like people look at it with dread. Oh, no.
Here comes Matt.
It ain't Santa Claus, baby. But how is that important to not have that image? Talk just a bit more.
Yeah. I think the image is still out there, and it's how you react when you get out there and how you interact, what questions you ask. Like, I don't have all the answers. Like, there was a couple of things yesterday that I didn't have an answer to. I was like, let's ask the people that are doing the work. That's where you're going to find the answer. Like, I see this hazard, but I'm not exactly sure how to handle it here. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to have every answer. Ask the question, though. Don't stand back and say, oh, if I ask this question, I'm going to look silly. Who cares? Ask the question.
A Carnegie principle is let the other person do a great deal of the talking, and let the other person feel the idea is his or hers.
Yeah.
And think, you were doing those things yesterday. And why is that so vital when the person on the front line, Matt, can explain to someone like you, and you're a normal person. You're not any better than anybody else, and you know that, but they elevate people in positions. Mm-hmm. They just do, like we all do.
Yeah, while I'm very proud of my title, I really want to change it to safety geek. Like, I'm just the safety guy trying to make a difference. And when I go out there, like, I just want to learn from them. Like, we have incredibly skilled craft professionals out there that are doing this work every day, and they manage it so well. I want to show up, and I bring a different filter, right? I'm not in the field every day, just doing the work every day. So sometimes I pick up on things that they might just overlook because they do it every day.
That's right.
And sometimes they made a decision that, no, that's not a hazard, and you don't really know, and that's fine. Tell me, like, let's have that conversation. But I think it's really important how you interact, how you present yourself. You got to be a professional. You got to understand that they're professionals. You got to ask questions, provide some suggestions, but really listen to them. Like, here's what I see. I like this one a lot. It's like, this is what I'm seeing going on right now. Can you just explain to me what you see, and let's line up here?
You know, and I like that type of questioning. So we have a lot of listeners as well who may just be starting out in their career. And, you know, I can look back 25 years ago and remember that I wanted to look like I knew it all and didn't want to be embarrassed. So, you know, any advice that you have for our younger or less tenured folks just getting into the safety world, how they could approach those situations?
Yeah, I was that way as well, and I still feel that way sometimes today. I'll go to a new, task or a new industry that we might be getting into that I don't know anything about. But, somebody told me a long time ago, it was actually one of my mentors said, if you apply foundational safety management, you can apply that to any industry. So just look at hazards, ask good questions, be humble. I think it's really important. The people that you're talking to are extremely knowledgeable, skilled craftspeople, whatever that craft is. They've worked just as hard, if not harder than you to get there, and they know what they're doing. Start there.
And they probably know that you don't know what they're doing, especially if you're just starting out or coming out.
Yeah, so if somebody tries to bluff, they're really going to hurt their integrity among the people.
Yeah.
And Carnegie was saying a principle, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Which people value somebody that says, I don't know.
Yeah.
Help me, educate me.
For sure. You'll see times. I was challenging. I've got out a lot the last couple of weeks. I was in Chicago last week, and we were doing some work on, and it was back alley work in a rough neighborhood. It was tight. It was messy. Like, if you think about line construction, I mean, this is about as messy as it gets in this environment. And I saw them doing a practice. Like, I don't know about that practice. Like, it's not a regulatory deal. Like, there's no OSHA law that says you can't do that. But I just sensed a hazard, right? And I got the general foreman off the side. I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And his quick response was, well, how do you want me to do it? And I was like, man, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I see a hazard, but I don't know what the solution is. I said, I got an idea. We got a employee safety committee, the people that actually do this work. Let's bring it to them and say, hey, is there a better way? And just having those conversations. And, I try not to know it, have all the answers for sure.
And this could take such a pressure off the folks that are listening and safety professionals to realize I do not have to be the ultimate source of knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ask the people, draw the people, ask them, learn from them.
Yeah, for sure.
I see here in some notes about this idea of your capacity model that you came up with. Can you explain about that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's an important part, and it ties back to some of the things we've talked about. So I went to Quanta Services 8.5 years ago, and I was a very traditional safety professional for the first probably 20 years of my career, where I would look at what happened last month, last quarter, and we would take all of our initiatives and all of our resources and create an initiative, and we would go after hand injuries or soft tissue injuries and whatever it might be. And we'd look at every quarter, we'd have a new initiative, and here would come flavor of the month. And, you could argue that we had some pretty good success there. We were driving our OSHA recordable rate, TRIR, down to record levels, and we were like pretty proud of ourselves, right? And we would get to the end of the quarter and go to the board meeting, or the end of the year and go to the year-end board meeting, and we would be like pounding our chest, look at us, look at our numbers. And seemingly the very next day we would have an event was life-altering, life-threatening, or even life-ending. And everything that I taught was everything that I learned or was taught, you take care of all the small stuff and you don't get to the big stuff. And that's how we grew up in this profession. And, I say it now, like that thought process is, well, if I stop smashing fingers, I'll never have a trench collapse. Or if I stop twisting knees, I'll never have an electrical contact.
Just doesn't check out.
When you say it that way, it makes no sense whatsoever. So I was at Quanta, 6 months, a year, and we had really good numbers. Like the numbers but we were having these significant events. And honestly, it just didn't make sense to me. So being a student of the profession, to be honest with you, I just dove back into research. It wasn't just me and the team, like we sat down and we got with all the thought leaders. If they would talk to me, Conklin and others, we got the books, we got the podcasts. And if there was a company that said human organizational performance or safety differently or safety 2.0, we like buzzwords. So anybody that was using these buzzwords and they would answer their phone and take a meeting, I was on a plane sitting down trying to learn. And I think looking back now, I don't know if I might have been trying to be lazy, because what I was hoping to do was go find somebody that was doing this safety differently thing, and I could bring it to Quanta and plug it in.
Just fix it.
Just fix it. Like this is the silver bullet. Lesson learned, there are no silver bullets. Even as cool as the capacity model is, it's not a silver bullet. But that wasn't there. We found a lot of people measuring safety differently. They might have been talking, at a management level about safety differently, but we really thought that it started in the field and it started with men and women doing the work. So we wanted to create something that, gave them a different tool to look at safety. So anyways, we were whiteboarding. I've never been an artistic kind of guy, but this was the creative point of my life, right? We had a whiteboard and we had some passionate professionals standing around a conference room table. And every Monday morning it was a constructive argument about where we're going to go and this idea and that won't work and this will work. And we just ended up building this framework around what we now know about safety. And it was such a really cool time for me in my career and my development, because it took me, I did this research for like 13, 14 months, over a year, to get my mind to shift, right? I had to go through this paradigm shift of how I looked at safety. So we had this framework built, and I knew we had this meeting coming up. Our CEO and myself were going to this meeting in Charlotte. It was one of these fancy pants meetings, the big wigs, and one of the topics was safety. And I'm sure I talked about hand injuries or whatever was trending at the time. But in the back of my head, I knew I was going to have 2.5 hours sitting next to our CEO to talk about what I've learned about safety. And we took that 2.5 hours and I explained to him my views of safety and where I come from. He's 4th generation in this business and very passionate about the men and women doing work. I've never met anybody more passionate about the craft skilled labor. And he talked about, the fatalities that they had over the years when he was a child in the business, honestly. And he talked about how we needed to be leaders and how we needed to get in front of this. And I reviewed what I've been learning and my new view on safety and where I thought we needed to go as a company. And, that was the night that I tell everybody, that was the night the capacity model took flight. When we landed back in Houston, he like tossed me the keys and said, go build it. And so we did. We went to work and we understood that out of all of our employees, they're all human beings. We checked the records. Everybody at Quanta that gets a paycheck is a human being. Go figure.
Nice. No robots.
But we checked the records
point.
just to make sure. And so we did that. And what we realized was all of us have one thing in common. We're all fallible. Mm-hmm. We're going to screw it up. Mm-hmm. And what we know is life-altering, life-threatening, and life-ending events occur when energy hits the body, right? And I don't want to downplay. There's some health issues out there that we have to address in some of those. But if you think through your career, there was energy release. It could be a car crash, a trench collapse, hydraulic hose blowout, whatever it is. There was energy that was released that the body couldn't absorb. So where we're going with the capacity model, it's all about building capacity. So when high energy is present, what controls, what capacity are you putting in place to be able to absorb that energy without changing someone's life? And that's the foundation of the capacity model. And as we were there building this throughout the time, we had one staff meeting in particular. I'll tell the story, and then it was really impactful. We were working on like our next year's plan. It was an annual all hands meeting. I think this was 2017, and we were, working on our hand initiatives or whatever was there. And I had all this stuff in the back of my head, and we got to build this, but we're still thinking in the past. And we had a significant event, and I had left the room to answer the call, and we were dealing with, the hospital or whatever was happening. It was a significant event. And I came back in that room, and I was mad and, just disappointed. And I took my phone and I threw my phone down on the table, and I just said, guys, we got to change this. We got to start focusing on the shit that kills us. And from there, it really kicked off our mission of where we were going. And this, one of the guys that used to work for me, his name is James McGowan. He was off to my left-hand side, and he was kind of grouchy.
Amazing guy.
He's an amazing guy, but he was also grouchy sometimes. And he was sitting there, and he was kind of being quiet, and I just thought he was doodling. And about 8 minutes later, I don't know what it was a few minutes later, he interrupts me mid-sentence, and he says, "Sticky." And I was like, "Sticky? What are you talking about, James?" He said, "STKY, sticky, shit that kills you." That's what we're going to call this thing. And it was perfect. And James, he coined the phrase sticky. I said the phrase, he coined the acronym, and it honestly, no pun intended, it stuck. Mm-hmm. And the thing about sticky is, like, I can walk in here today and ask you, what's the shit that's going to kill you today? You know what? I don't need training, right? You go ask a crew in the field, what's sticky about this task? And they know what it is. But it's a way to keep focus on the task, on high energy, and it's using language that they use, mm-hmm. which just makes it resonate, right? Mm-hmm. So that's there's a lot to that story, but that's kind of how we got started.
And the fact the sticky is a catchphrase that people can remember.
Absolutely.
It's not like 10, 12 words.
That's right. And it's consumable. We focus in all of our safety programs, we focus on consumability at the frontline level. I didn't say dumb down. We have incredibly intelligent mm-hmm. people. They're getting hit by lasagna, right? They got client requirements, corporate requirements, local requirements, city, whatever it is. And then here comes all this other stuff.
Yeah. So many pressures. And, oh, by the way, you've got to do this work that can kill you every day.
Exactly. So let's focus on sticky. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to do.
This has been an hour of passion, of humility, and servanthood to say, let's take care of not just those employees, but their families and their loved ones and their friends. It's a huge responsibility.
Matt, it's been such a pleasure getting to hang out for at least a couple of hours again.
Yeah.
Everybody out there listening, if you can get a few minutes of Matt's time ever, you won't regret it.
Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wow. Just what an amazing time we had with Matt, who walked us through his experience from growing up on a farm to working with thousands and thousands of employees that do work that could kill him every single day. One of the things that really stood out to me through this time was how important it is to be a student of the profession when you're a safety and health professional, and how important that is to him.
Yes. And I just sensed energy that came from his heart and his soul in believing in what he was doing and what he stood for to help people. And one of the statements he made that caught my attention was he talked about when he would go to sites and he'd watch the different crews work. And he would often say something to them, now, this is what I see, but could you explain what you see?
Right.
And it was with a humility that says, I'm here to learn from you. And that just opens up people's hearts and doors of opportunity. So we've just been very fortunate, and listeners will want to listen to this one a time or two to gain the nuggets from it.
No doubt about it.
Thanks for listening to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast produced in partnership by Dale Carnegie and BCSP, with your hosts Dale Carnegie Master Trainer Merle Heckman and Shelley Baber, EHS Director of Electrical Engineering Services and Systems Division at Eaton. Executive produced by Nathan Wilson. Produced by Joel Burgai. Directed by Giachi Liu. Edited by Jared Griot and Kyla Anderson. Editorial support from Brandon Mohawkt. Social media support from Braylon Morgan and Crystal Keithley. Consulting producers are Colin Brown and Mark Sullivan. To have new episodes delivered directly to you, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. If you'd like to share your story of a safety leadership challenge you faced, email us at info@mybigsafetychallenge.com. See you next time.